You really have to ask how much can any one community, can any one group of people endure before reaching a breaking point? And the question should be asked of farmers, shouldn't it? British farmers must surely be near breaking point, already reeling from the hammer blow of the inheritance tax raid, which threatens to decimate family farms, grappling with the chaos of post Brexit subsidy schemes, and burdened with the rising national insurance contributions, maybe even struggling because of the nonsense that Europe heaped on farmers towards the end of its period. And now, suddenly, farmers have to face yet another existential threat, a threat that ruins their existence, the power of local councils to seize their land at a fraction of its real value under the new Planning and Infrastructure Bill. And the latest assault comes in the form of compulsory purchase orders, with the government handing local councils greater power to acquire farmland, not at its potential value, but at its current undeveloped price. And the traditional safeguard of hope value, which recognises the worth of land if granted planning permission, is being dismantled. This means farmers will be forced to sell for a fraction of what they could have expected under existing rules. This isn't merely a policy tweak, it's an economic sledgehammer aimed squarely and surely at the rural economy. Many farmers depend on the fair market value of their land as a form of financial security. If a council decides a farmer's field is prime real estate for new homes, hospitals, or schools, that farmer will be forced to sell at agricultural prices, even if developers will eventually sell plots at a vast markup. It would be easier to accept if this were the only assault on farmers, but it's not. Labour's policies seem designed to push farmers into financial crisis at every turn. It's precarious. The inheritance tax changes mean that farms over £1 million or £3 million for married couples now face a 20% tax on their value. Many will be forced to sell land just to cover the bill. Rising national insurance contributions further erode thin profit margins. The difficulty of getting temporary seasonal help. Post-Brexit subsidy chaos has left many farmers uncertain about their future incomes. And now capital gains tax hikes ensure that even when farmers do receive compensation for compulsory purchases, they will see a larger portion siphoned off by the Treasury. It's one thing after another. Who would want to be a farmer faced with the viciousness of this present government? Each of these policies is damaging in isolation. Together, they constitute an outright attack. And the fury in the countryside is already evident. Farmers have taken to the streets, bringing their tractors into London in open defiance of police bans. The Pancake Day rally was a clear warning shot to a government that appears determined to alienate rural communities. And is Farage the only person that they can entice onto their tractors to support them? No. Even politicians who might ordinarily be seen as champions of enterprise and development have begun to express concerns, realising that a fair market economy doesn't thrive when one sector is perpetually singled out for punitive treatment. Tim Bonner of the Countryside Alliance has rightly called this latest move a step too far. Farmers are not opposed to house building. Indeed, many would willingly sell their land at fair market prices. But this isn't a fair market. This isn't a fair rate. This is forced acquisition at below market prices, coupled with legislative manoeuvres to silence any objection. And beyond the and people, some farmers have only just recovered from the forced from the forced land buying and the carving out of their land from HS2. Beyond the immediate financial impact on landowners, this policy has far-reaching consequences. Britain's food security relies on a stable and sustainable agricultural sector. If farmers are forced to sell their land under duress, the land lost to development will not return to food production ever. The more we weaken the industry, the more reliant we become on imports, a glaring contradiction for a government that claims to value domestic production. Furthermore, the economic vibrancy of rural communities is at stake. Many small farms and rural businesses operate on razor-thin margins. The shock of inheritance tax burdens, followed by forced land sales, will push more farms out of business, and the ripple effect will be felt in local supply chains, small businesses, and village communities already struggling to survive in a changing economic landscape. Angela Rayner's rhetoric about the biggest building boom in a generation conveniently ignores the cost of that boom. The government insists that compensation will be fair but not excessive. But to whom? To whom is it fair? To whom is it not excessive? To developers who will profit from the cheap acquisition of land, or to the farmers who have built livelihoods on it? It argues that compulsory purchases will be subject to a public interest test, but who decides what is in the public interest, when those enforcing the policy also stand to benefit from it? It assures us that there will be sufficient protections to prevent abuse of the new powers, yet history has shown that once compulsory purchase powers are expanded, they are rarely reined in. There's a fundamental question the government needs to answer. How much more can it demand from rural communities before the cost becomes unbearable? Farmers are not an endless resource to be plundered for taxation, for land, for compliance. The countryside is not an empty slate for politicians to redraw at will. Food production, rural economies, and community stability cannot be treated as collateral damage in a housing policy designed for headlines rather than real-world visibility. If Labour continues to pursue these policies without meaningful consultation and engagement with the rural communities, it risks igniting a backlash it cannot and will not control. The farmers are already in revolt. The government would do well to listen before it finds itself on the wrong side of history.